So, okay,
Yeah.
how long, so prior to meeting, how long had you been single?
I had been single. I was one of those people, I had so many friends who were like the sort of girls that would be in a long relationship, then like break up and then like be dating someone else a month later. I was the opposite of that. I would date somebody for a month, and usually long distance. And then I would just not have peace about it. Like, it's what I like to call the ick, where you're just like, ooh, I don't know, I don't feel good about this. But I think lots of people will tell you, I had lots of friends tell me, oh, just push through, like, this is just part of it, all that sort of thing. But I think that with anything, no matter what you're believing for, if there is a lack of peace, you don't have to like ignore that and keep pushing through, because you will end up having the fruit of that. Yeah. So I had kind of like dated people for like, I would date someone for like maybe a month, and then I would literally not date anyone for another 2 or 3 years. And for me, I just was not willing to have a good story. I wanted a God story. When I was 16, I remember walking home from youth group, and like my best friend had just like started dating the guy that I liked, which at 16, that's heartbreaking. But I remember like walking home and throwing it back to God and saying, God, well, fine, if that happened, then like I want a story. Like I want a story. And I remember pointing at the sky and just yelling at God and like crying and saying, I want a story. I don't want coincidence. I want a story. And it's so funny because on our wedding day, I really felt like God say, you wanted a story. And it just made me just,
That's so good.
So how long from you meeting until you got married?
6 months, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 6 or 7.
Is that quick?
Yeah, we met it might have been might have been like 8 months, because we met in summer, in like the end of June, I think. And he came down and took me on a date, and then I drove to Chattanooga. And the funny thing is I drove to Chattanooga, and one of the things he said to me was, I'm never going to move to Nashville. I cannot move to Nashville. I'm going to stay in Chattanooga. And for me, that would normally be like a red flag, because I really knew that God had called me to Nashville. And, I'd moved from the other side of the world to Nashville because I knew God had called me here. But I remember like God saying to me, don't talk about this. Like, I will figure it out. Just leave it with me. And there is such a wrestle, like when something is, we all have the ability to take matters into our own hands, or to leave it with God and just trust that he'll work it out. And that was such a big thing. And Joren and I are both really strong personalities that like, I felt like God say, just don't address that. Well, I went and saw him, and then like the next weekend, I think he called me up and he said, my boss said, after God had said to me, like, don't talk about like the Chattanooga, Nashville thing, or where you're going to live. It's only 2 weeks in. But he called me the next week and he said, this is so weird, but I talked to my boss about like getting promoted in my company. He said, no, there's no promotions here for you. You'll have to move to Nashville, which I was like, yes. Like, and then.
Well, he knew we were dating, and he suggested that we transfer me to Nashville.
Oh, really?
So I could continue to pursue you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Joren's boss in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So we met in like June, and then we got engaged in like the end of November.
Oh yeah, right before we went to the UK.
Yeah, and we had gotten like I had gotten all these words. I talk about looking for evidence. I had gotten all these different words. One that was so specific, which it was from someone I really trust, and they said, right before I met Joren, I had a moment where I was really discouraged, because I think everybody has those moments where you're believing God for something, and right before a breakthrough, like you get discouraged and kind of want to take matters into your own hands. Well, I was super discouraged because I'd felt like I'd been walking out this like custom-made story promise with God for 2 years, but hadn't really seen any of the fulfillment, and it still looked like there was nothing on the horizon. Well, I was walking that out, and I got a word from a friend that I really trust, and he had said to me, no, I don't normally do this, but I had a vision of your husband. And I really felt like it was God encouraging me, where he said, your husband's tall, he's taller than you, he's 6'2" or 6'3", he's a year older than you, and he works in like a government job. It's like an accountant, but it's not an accountant, it's like systems. And he has a kind heart and a soft heart towards God, and he will have a soft heart towards you, and you guys will laugh a lot together. And I'd written that down. So I'd had all these words along the way about Joren that I'd kind of held on to, and I'd started gathering this box of evidence, and I just held on to all of it. But it was like, one of the words that we got was that someone had said, I saw a vision of you in London at Christmas. Well, we got engaged in November, and then our friend Steph Sonchin, she had worked for this company for years and had traveled to Uganda for years, and so she had all these British Airlines points. Well, she ended up giving us all the British Airlines points and flew us first class to London for Christmas. So we ended up in London at Christmas. Yeah. She's such a gem. So, yeah.
Wow. The ring.
The ring
There's
was...
a special story about the ring.
Yes.
You're not wearing the ring.
I'm not wearing the ring, but this ring also has a special story. So
the ring's at home.
The ring is, the ring is at home, like protected, like it's the Mona Lisa. Yeah, it's in Smag's cage. Our pet lizard's protecting it. You have to get through. You have to get through our dragon to get to the ring.
There's a children's book right there.
Let's do it. So like every girl wants to pretend they're not this girl, but most of us are this girl. So like I remember, and social media is always quite nasty to you in the season that you're believing for. Like if you're believing for a baby, it will only show you baby products. If you're believing to get married, it will only show you pictures of rings. If you're trying to lose weight, it will only show you pictures of skinny people. So, I was single, and I kept getting this like Brilliant Earth advertisements, which they say it's an algorithm, but like I hadn't been searching for pictures of rings. Maybe I had. But I got this Brilliant Earth, which is a ring company, advertisement, and the ring that was on my Instagram was this Art Deco ring that was beautiful. I hadn't seen a ring like it. And I remember screenshotting it, and then I went a couple of days later to the website. It's just out of curiosity. I don't know how much diamonds cost. But I was like, I'm just going to see how much a ring like that costs. And it wasn't there because it was a one-off ring and it had already sold. And I was like kind of bummed, but I was like, oh, well. And then I kind of just forgot about the picture in my phone because, sometimes I just forget to delete things. But so it was still in my phone and just sitting there. And then like when God had given me that promise, I went back through my phone and I printed off the picture and I laminated it. Just because I was like, well, I'm going to put it in my box full of evidence. And then when it came time, I say when it came time, I didn't actually know Joren was going to propose. I knew we were moving in that direction, but, it wasn't something I was trying to micromanage or plan myself, which I think this is a word for some girls. Let them do it. Like, it's actually really great for them to do it. Like trust your future husband enough that he's going to honor your heart and he's going to do something that is, I don't know, just great. So Joren had gone and picked a ring, and I didn't actually know he was going to propose. And, some of my friends had tried to speak into it, and he was like, nah, I've got it. And I knew none of this. And he got down on one knee and opened the box, and I could not believe it. The first thing I said was, why are you doing it now? Because I was so shocked that he was proposing. I had thought oh yeah, this will happen in a couple of months, maybe 4 or 5 months from now. But he proposed, and he opened the box, and it was that ring. And I couldn't believe it because I'd never sent the ring to anyone. I'd never even showed my friends. And the only person that would have known was God. And for me, that was such a moment of, man, God, you're so in the details. You so know. And I just couldn't believe it. It's a one, or if you saw the ring, you would be like, yeah, it's not like anything. It's a very unique looking ring. But I one time when we got married left it on a soap dispenser at a hotel. So ever since then, now I keep it in a shrine at home because I don't want to lose it. So for our 5th wedding anniversary, Joren got me another ring that is also an Art Deco ring, and it's incredibly unique.
She's way more sentimental than me.
So sweet.
That's a sweet thing.
So sweet.
It really is.
Aw.
Yeah, so I feel like with Mia, everything that I did, it was like this God force came over me, and I just knew I had to do it. So with the ring, even with asking her out, I didn't mention this part earlier, but before the day that I asked her out, I had gone hiking with a buddy in Chattanooga. We went out for dinner afterward, and this rush of energy came over me, and I just knew I just had to ask out Mia, the girl that smiled at me at church 2 years ago. And so in true male fashion, I made it into a competition, and I said to my buddy, I know there's this girl that you don't want to ask out. Let's both do a pact. As soon as we get home, we'll ask out, the girls that we're interested in. Well, his girl said no, but Mia said yes, so that was good. But
Worked out for one.
Yeah, but same thing with the ring. Is I was on my lunch break, and I sort of knew what style she was after and which websites to look for that style on. But just something came over me when I just realized, or just had this urge, I have to buy the ring right now. I just have to buy it. And I saw that one, I just knew it. This Holy Spirit, God, can't explain it. Like, I just have to buy this ring right now. And I'm not a procrastinator, but I'm also not an impulse buyer. So it didn't even feel like me to do something like that. So, yeah. So when you were saying just trust the guy, trust that the guy will do the right thing and lead the way.
Right.
I think it's also trust God.
Yeah. And I think, everyone has their own journey with God. And one of the things that was so great for me was I wanted someone who knew how to hear from God. But how can you trust that somebody knows how to hear from God if you're micromanaging it the whole time, and if you're the one who's like hearing for them and telling them what to do, or like you're not letting them walk out like their testimony as well? Because this isn't just like Joren's testimony or my testimony, it's our testimony. But when we were single, we both had things that God was speaking to us about, So I think for me, every little detail of what God did with how I met Joren and just the things that God spoke, even the things that God had spoken to Joren, everything was evidence that God was so in this, and that I was marrying someone who loved God more than he loved me, enough to hear God and like follow his voice and step out in faith, which is just exactly what I wanted in a husband.
Yeah.
So cute, guys. So cute.